Sergeant Alia Verban listened to the soft hiss of her suit's recyclers and tried to match her breathing to their cadence. She floated inside drop bay C of the frigate's stalwart resolution, visor polarized against the glare from Titan's burnt orange horizon beyond the launch doors. Down there, half hidden beneath a methane haze, hung the Kiri Dominion Citadel, throne of glass, a nested lattice of reflective panels and shield nodes that had laughed off every fleet bombardment the Terran Expeditionary Force had dared throw at it for 6 grinding weeks. Orbital railguns, kinetic rods, laser lances. Nothing opened so much as a pinprick. But tonight, Command was gambling on something stranger than a new weapon. Geometry, timing, and the stubborn audacity of the Helix Marines. Captain Reese's voice crackled over the TACnet. Green across the board. Secure lines to the beanstalks. The overhead lamps strobed to a salt red. Alia thumbed her grip on the slender cable spooled from her harness, 50 microns thick, almost invisible if you weren't looking for it. On the inside of her visor, lines of nanofabricated carbon unwound into a 3D lattice depiction, threading past asteroid debris, curving into Titan's exosphere and plunging straight toward the shields of the Dominion station. The Helix Marines rappelled down orbital beanstalks, spun from carbon strands, landing in spirals that map perfectly onto enemy shield harmonics for instant breach. The ancient recruiting slogan chimed unbidden in her mind, ridiculous in its bravado, and yet everything about tonight's op sought to make the ad copy real. Centuries of math fights and supercomputing cycles had reduced the Dominion's phase-shifted shields to an equation. The Helix drop, Reese claimed, was the answer. Oliad's HUD flashed, "Go." She flicked her wrist, magnetizing glove plates to the cable's nano-coating. "Helix 1, with me," said to her fire team. 10 icons pulsed acknowledgement. The launch doors, irised apart, and Titan's pale starscape poured in, cold and uncaring. Aliat kicked gently. Inertia carried her into the gulf, boots locking to the cable. Behind her, 19 more Marines followed, spaced at 3-meter intervals, until the beanstalks stretched like shimmering spider threads between ship and moon. Silence settled. In microgravity there was no sensation of down, only motion relative to the Citadel's distant gleam. Alia toggled the mission overlay. Concentric rings spun across her display. Dominion shield frequencies plotted against the spiral descent path, each looped curve kissing a node of weakest interference. The supercomputers insisted that if the Marines arrived along the golden ratio torsion encoded into the cable's twist, their impact vectors would cancel the outer harmonics for a window of exactly 6.2 seconds. 6.2. Enough to punch through as long as not a single body drifted off pattern. At T-minutes 30, the suit AI began its whispered litany. Adjust yaw minus 0.2. Increase slide to 81 millimeters per second. Maintain spiral phase. Alia obeyed, muscles training sharp. Each minuscule correction turned her body into a data point of a living equation. She glimpsed her squad corkscrewing below, a living helix falling through night. 10 kilometers out, Dominion sentries finally noticed. Kinetic flak spat from automated turrets. Kinetic flechettes that flowered into clouds, glittering like lethal confetti. But the beanstalks were transparent to radar, and the Marines' biosigns rode the same bandwidth as background radiation. The flak chased ghosts. Alyazi's heartbeat steadied. She let the planet's slow gravity tug her deeper. 5 kilometers. The Dominion shields transformed from a distant shimmer into a curved sea of violet lightning. Alia could taste ozone in her recycled air, a phantom from memory. "Remember," Race whispered across the net. "Drop on pulse sick. Lightfoot after breach." Lightfoot, Dominion gravity inside the station varied by ring, but they'd practiced in virtual trainers for weeks. Their boots knew the script. 3 kilometers. A turret shell finally strayed close. It struck the cable above Alpha Squad, vaporizing 2 meters of carbon thread in a flash of plasma. Alia's HUD flooded with warnings, cable integrity compromised. But the squad above clamped to secondary filaments, rappelling across the gap like circus acrobats, never missing a beat of the spiral. The equation held. 1 kilometer. Dominion comms erupted with alarm, frequencies overlapping in frantic Curies clicks. The enemy knew something was happening, but not what shape it took or where the strike would hit. Alia smirked. Let them guess. Final approach. The AI's tone shifted to urgent. Target cones converged. Alia's muscles tensed. She thumbed her thrusters for the deceleration burn that would align her exactly 17.4 centimeters above the shield plane at the crucial moment. Around her, the beanstalk's carbon strands began disintegrating on schedule, reacting to an embedded timer. The cable unwove into a mist of glittering dust, leaving each Marine suspended freely, no longer tethered to anything but math. Pulse 1. A rolling thump of energy rippled along the shield, visible as a brighter violet ring. Pulse 2. Alia's intrusive memories brought back academy evenings spent staring at differential equations, heartsick with wonder that war had become an affair of spinning primes and sacred ratios. Pulse 3. Pulse 4. They came within spitting distance of the glimmering wall. Pulse 5. Time dilated, everything slowed. Pulse 6. Alia kicked. So did every member of Helix. 90 boots hit the shield membrane and, by divine or computational grace, the local harmonics canceled. The violet lightning convulsed inward, screamed silent, and winked out under their souls. In the 6.2-second hole, the Marines fell straight through the skin of the throne of glass. The world shifted from void to a riot of artificial gravity. Alia landed in a crouch on a glossy diamond lattice floor, assault rifle snapping to her shoulder. 13 meters overhead, the shield pulsed alive again, sealing the breach and amputating defenders from pursuit. Her squad fanned out in a textbook cloverleaf, muzzles covering every corridor. Lightfoot, she ordered. Helmets, reconfigured, altering weight distribution so each step barely kissed the ground. A sneak walk for 0.62 G, the spin for this sector. They moved down a curved passage, opalescent panels reflecting their dim suit lights. Dominion interior architecture favored twisted symmetry, corridors coiling in Mobius turns, artful to the eye, disorienting to cognition. But the Marines carried fractal maps cooked from weeks of spy probe telemetry. Alia sub-vocalized waypoints. Arrows pulsed in her HUD. Their objective, core node amphora, a superconducting vase of dark matter glass at the habitat's heart. Shatter the amphora, and the entire shield lattice would fail across Titan orbit, letting the fleet burn the citadel to slag. Simpler said than done. Amphora sat in the sword hall, guarded by elite mirror knights. Tonight, chance favored the bold. The knights had redeployed to face the fleet's diversionary bombardment on the far hemisphere. Helix had a clear but narrow path. Contact left, 90 meters. Corporal Jones's sensor ping lit the net. Alia saw it too. 3 Dominion sentries, feathered exosuits bristling with charge lances, patrolling a cross corridor. Alia gestured. 2 Marines slithered up the wall using gecko pads, traversed inverted along the ceiling, and punched silent darts into the enemy's respirators. The sentries dropped soundlessly, their plumed pauldrons splaying like broken wings. No alarms. They ducked under an archway and entered the prism's stair, a winding ascent of transparent steps inside a hollow column. Here, gravity vector pivoted 30 degrees. Each step felt like stepping across a ship's bulkhead. Dominion engineers love to flaunt their mastery of artificial gravity, but the effect served Alia just fine. They're disorienting to defenders as well. Midway up the stair, trigger-happy klaxons wailed. Perhaps a sentry had missed a check-in. Perhaps the Citadel's AI noticed the microfailures ripple outward from the shield breach. Either way, subtlety expired. Alia flicked her rifle to hot. Security shutters slammed down at the column's crown, clanging like temple gongs. Sparks cascaded where the shutters met the stair's diamond edges, scattering prisms of light. Private Manuela lobbed a compression grenade. Boom! The shutter dented inward, polymer steel folding like origami. Heat licked Alia's cheeks through the suit. They charged into the hall beyond, an amphitheater ringed with sculpted obelisks, each one a focusing crystal for the Citadel's power grid. Panels flared with Dominion glyphs that translated automatically on Alia's HUD. Routing voltage to Block 8-7. Stand by for discharge. The enemy meant to electrify the floor. Jump nose, Alia shouted. Marines vaulted onto the obelisk's narrow ledges, just as 30,000 volts spiderwebbed across the hall's surface, turning it into a dazzling pool of white fire. Helix bobbed on their perches like birds on reeds, untouched. Alia spotted a Dominion officer across the bowl, frantically typing orders into a console. She squeezed off a 3-round burst. Armor piercers punched through crystalloid plating. The officer crumpled. The electricity died, leaving scorched flooring and a smell of ionized air. They dropped down and pressed forward. Layers of defense thickened. Pop-up turrets, drone swarms, pressure mines disguised as decorative tiles. Yet the Marines moved with an eerie precision born of months of VR rehearsal. Alia felt as though she were acting in a memory. Each corridor bears-a vu, each enemy already slain in some earlier dream. Finally, double doors of obsidian jade loomed. The Sword Hall. Sensors revealed a single life sign within, massive, cool as a glacier, so one mere night had remained after all. They breached. Hydrocarbon lights cast a green glow over a cavernous chamber, ceiling lost in haze. At center stood the Amphora, a 3-meter vessel of translucent black, surface crawling with quantum fog, and beside it, the Knight, a towering figure clad in mirror-finish armor that reflected Alas's squad in rippling duplicate. The Knight's weapon resembled a Zweihander forged of blue lightning. Targets, Knight, Amphora. Split dag, Alia ordered, voice steady though her pulse spiked. 3 Marines fanned to flank, 2 shouldered rail launchers aimed at the dark matter glass. The Knight moved first, impossibly quick. A sweep of the blade severed the left flanker at the waist, the suit's auto-tourniquets inflated. But the Marine toppled, out of the fight. A ricochet of terror rang through the net. Alia stomped it down. Focus, fire! High-energy rounds hammered the Knight, but mirror plating bent trajectories, sending bullets whining past. The Knight advanced on Alia, blade lowering toward a thrust. She threw herself sideways, crash-rolling across basalt tiles, and loosed a burst at the Knight's knee joint. Single slug, found purchase, blackening silver alloy. The Knight staggered. Jones vaulted onto the Amphora's plinth, planting shape-charred satchels. The Knight roared, a sound felt more than heard, and hurled the lightning sword. It spun end over end, trailing ion whip cracks. Alia lunged, catching the blade's hilt with her gauntlet magnets, momentum ripping her backward but deflecting the weapon from Jones. Aluminum plates in her arm vaporized. Under heat, pain blotched her vision. She screamed, a raw primal thing, but kept hold. Rail Launcher 1 thundered. A tungsten slug smashed the Knight's breastplate, finally piercing through. The giant convulsed, took half a step, and sank to its knees. As it bowed, visor slipping toward shadow, Alia thought she saw a human eye behind the mirrored surface. Astonishment, regret, then nothing. Jones shouted, "Fire in the hole!" Alia rolled behind a column. The charges erupted. A black nova blossomed and the dark matter glass of the Amphora shattered into a cloud of particles too exotic for physics to name. Every light in the hall died. Gravity flickered. Alia's boots left the ground for an instant before backup generators stabilized. Across Titan's orbit, Dominion shields failed. Alia pictured the fleet's railguns pivoting, lasers charging. A tremble went through the throne of glass as distant impacts scored its flanks. But the mission wasn't done until Helix was out. Axil route Delta, Alia snapped. Her wounded arm dangled useless. Nanobots knitting tissue, but adrenaline overwhelmed pain. They retraced through smoke-filled corridors, dodging panicked defenders. Warning klaxons pulsed red as the station bled atmosphere from new hull breaches. At the prism stair, they met a wave of fleeing technicians. The civilians stared, eyes wide, recognizing death. Alia hesitated. Orders prioritized extraction, yet slaughtering unarmed personnel offered no tactical gain. "Bypass," she ordered. The Marines shouldered past without firing. Behind them, the sword hall's collapse thundered down the corridors, a roar of failing bulkheads. They reached the breach point. The shield overhead flickered dangerously, its frequencies haywire without the amphora. Vapor vents gusted frigid nitrogen. Above, Titan's stratosphere burned with entry streaks. The fleet's submunitions inbound. "Beanstalks are gone," Corporal Manuel observed grimly. "No rappel." "Suit thrusters?" Ali replied. They had fuel for a minute of micro-maneuvering, more than enough now that the Citadel's anti-sheet nests were offline. She pinged command. "Helix to resolution. Package delivered, requesting pickup coordinates." Static hissed, then Captain Reese's calm baritone. "Acknowledged. Dropships inbound to your transponder. Window is tight-sit." Alia gazed at her battered team. 19, -3 dead, 2 wounded. Each helm visor was grime-smudged, paint-scorched, yet their eyes, those Alia could see, glowed with fierce triumph. Helix, ignite. They launched as one, thrusters flaring, angling toward the nearest hull rent where vacuum licked once outside a panorama of chaos greeted them. The once pristine throne looked like a broken chandelier, shards drifting away, framework skeleton exposed. Terran destroyers burned past, flinging the surface, flinging white-hot beams that cut glowing scars. In the distance, Titan's amber face rolled serene, an indifferent deity. Dropships streaked across the debris field, vectoring toward Alea's beacon. She guided her squad with microbursts, weaving through wreckage. A spinning slab of solar panels spun too near. Private Singh spat a curse, nudging away just in time, though not before the panel clipped his calf, shearing armor plates. Alarms shouted. Singh grimaced, but pushed on. They boarded the first Shrike-class dropship through its dorsal bay inside. Medtechs yanked helmets, sprayed coagulant jacked IVs. Alia sank into a webbed seat, world tilting. The pain in her arm returned with volcanic fury now that adrenaline waned. Somewhere overhead, the pilot barked coordinates. G-forces pressed them into harnesses as the Shrike banked away. Through a viewport, Alia watched the throne of glass crack along its equator. Inner rings telescoped, each fold belching atmosphere like smoke from a dying dragon. Then the station imploded, a silent blossom of mirrored shards receding into night. A hush filled the dropship. Respect, perhaps, or exhaustion? Lieutenant Mavros, ribs bound in smart tape, leaned over. "Sergeant, we did it! Whole damn fleet is cheering." Alia managed a tired smile. Ghost pain twitched where the knight's sword had kissed her bone. History books will credit admirals and algorithms, but we know how it really happened. Boots on a beanstalk. Mavros chuckled, but his eyes were damp. The war had taken planets, friends, innocents. Small victories felt enormous, precisely because so much else was gone. The Shrike docked with the stalwart Resolution. As Alia disembarked, technicians applauded. Their gauntleted hands rang metal. Overline speakers blared battlefield reports. Dominion forces retreating, shield networks collapsing across the Saturnian theater. Every cheer, every handshake felt remote to Alia, as though her mind still floated on that invisible filament of carbon orbiting Titan. In the infirmary, surgeons sliced the scorched armor from her arm, laying bare angry welts. Nanobots and painkillers rushed in. She closed her eyes. Behind her eyelids, she saw the helix drop in perfect clarity, the spiral, the shield's violet skin. the single-beat harmony of 90 warriors becoming a mathematical chord. She wondered if years from now, when memories blurred, she would still recall the thrill of hitting the shield at pulse 6, the hush of being inside a miracle. Later, when her arm was wrapped in regen gel, and the med ward's lullabies hummed, Captain Reese visited. He stood by her bunk, hands clasped behind his back. "Repairs will have you planetside for a week, Sergeant." "Yes, sir." "Fleet brass wants Helix honored at the Saturn Citadel. Medals, speeches, the usual noise." Alia grimaced. "We didn't win the war, sir. We just opened a door." Reese's smile was wistful. "Sometimes opening a door is the hardest part." He handed her a data wafer. "Recording of the drop. Operational cameras caught every vector. We'll feed it to new recruits, give them something to chase." Alia turned the wafer between fingers. In translucent plastic, she saw the faint image of spirals like twin snakes intertwined. She dimly registered the captain leaving. Alone, she called up the playthrough on her retinal display. Tiny figures slid down invisible threads against Titan's swirling storms, moving in deliberate grace. She zoomed in on her own avatar, rifle across her chest, posture determined. For a heartbeat, that footage looked unreal, the scene of some sepia legend from the early days of spacefaring. She shut the file and stared at the ceiling lights until tears blurred them into shapeless glows. The war churned on, would claim more citadels, more lives. Yet tonight existed, immutable, coded into memory and tape. Beyond the ward's porthole, Saturn's rings glimmered, braids of ice and dust, bound by gravity's invisible melodies. Alia imagined descending those bands as she had the beanstalk, riding spirals the cosmos itself had drawn. Sleep crept in, heavy and kind. Just before surrendering, she thought of the ancient slogan again, once so boastful, now an echo of lived truth. The Helix Marines rappelled down orbital beanstalks spun from carbon strands, landing in spirals that map perfectly onto enemy shield harmonics for instant breach. And in the silence of her drifting mind, the words became less a boast and more a vow. One humanity would carry wherever shields rose and courage answered, wherever geometry made room for impossible footfalls across the face of war.